Friday edition of the show. I don't know how we've made it, but we have. All across America on SportsMap Radio. All over the world on the SportsMap Radio app. I will warn you all in advance, I do not have my A game tonight. I am still battling this. I've been sick for a week. 8 days I have been sick. But it's NBA free agency night. Woohoo! NBA free agency night, yes. Players are signing everywhere. The whole complexion of the league changing in front of our very eyes and in your very ears. So we've got plenty to get to on that on the show tonight. Justin Termini is going to stop by the program, the host of NBA Today, Monday through Friday. Sirius XM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, alongside Eddie Johnson. We'll get some thoughts with him on everything as it's happening. And, I mean, there is literally news breaking, as we sit here and talk in this first segment, because free agency opened up several hours ago. And there was already news breaking before the signings actually started. You already kind of knew where some people were going to go. And then they opened up the official signing period, and boom, everybody's going somewhere. Dallas Mavericks have signed former Nets guard Seth Curry to a 2-year deal. That deal just coming down about 20 minutes ago. So Dallas tries to add some shooting to put alongside Kyrie Irving, who is going back to Dallas after playing the last half of the season there. And we all saw how it turned out, with the team basically mailing it in the final game of the season to get a worthless draft pick, essentially. And now Dallas is the proud owner of a Kyrie Irving for the next 3 years. What does that mean for the future of Luka Doncic in that franchise? I guess we'll find out, depending on how things go over the next year with him in that team. I think they've got 1 year to get it right with Doncic there. I don't think he's going to sit around and accept losing every year just because he's getting a big fat paycheck. I think he's the kind of guy that's going to want to win. I think he understands his legacy in the game. I don't think he's going to put up with a losing franchise. So we're going to be following all the free agency stuff throughout the night on the show. You're welcome to weigh in with your thoughts. The phone number, if you want to call into the show, is 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can text us on the Cash-In exclusive text line. It's open just for you during these hours of the show. 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549. It's also Friday, which means you could ask Paige anything at all. Sports, politics, entertainment, personal questions, whatever you want. Just shoot us your text on the Cash-In text line, 888-670-8549. We only do that on Fridays here on the show. We'll go through the latest betting lines. We'll get you up to date on all the baseball news of the night. Yankees and Cardinals, I was getting all pumped up. There was a rain delay. I was like, good, game will start just in time for us to do this show. Nope, not going to happen. No Yankees and Cardinals, rained out. I'm guessing they're going to play a doubleheader at some point over the weekend, whether that's tomorrow or Sunday. That remains to be seen. Boston beat Toronto 5-0 tonight. Mets lost another heartbreaker. And boy, in a week where you basically had the owner come out and castigate the team and the organization for the direction things have gone, it is not the kind of result or response to that you want. I think the Mets have lost 2 or 3 straight now, or 2 of the last 3 since that Steve Cohen, their owner, gave a speech. There's already been a big trade in baseball a month prior to the trade deadline. We'll get to that on the program tonight. But it's all about NBA free agency, and we will spend a lot of time in this broadcast today certainly talking about that. Dennis Schroeder is on the move, one of the big Laker pieces to their postseason run. Dennis Schroeder, who helped get the Lakers to the NBA Western Conference Finals with his outstanding play during the postseason. That Dennis Schroeder is headed to Toronto to play for the Raptors on a 2-year, $26 million deal, so he gets his bag. Yeah. That's Charles Carter, the dulcet tones of Charles Carter. He is our producer, engineer, working the show in Houston, Texas tonight, home of SportsMap Radio, our syndicator of this program. I am in Palm Springs, where it was 108 degrees today. 108. And it's going to get better than that. It's going to be 113 to the next 2 days here in Palm Springs. Oh, we're just getting warmed up literally out here. We are just getting warmed up. Oh, I'm sorry. The high today was actually 111. I take it back. The high today was 111. Tomorrow, 113. Sunday, 112. Monday, 110. There's your forecast. Doesn't get below 103 for the next 10 days here. But it's a dry heat. Only 11% humidity. Only 11% humidity. But the heat index, the air quality index, you can't even breathe when you walk outside in this stuff. It's just the worst. Now, it's not like Northeast with all the fire burning in Canada and sending all the smoke into the central part of the country in the Northeast. It's not like that, but it's pretty sucky. Like, you don't really want to go outside when it's this hot. It's a good night to just stay indoors, turn on the radio. Turn on your radio, Sonny, and listen to the show and watch some baseball and get some NBA free agency news. Jason Cole will join us as well. So Justin Termini will stop by the show in 23 minutes. We'll get some thoughts with him on this NBA free agency period, which is off and running in earnest. We'll talk with him coming up in 23 minutes. And then coming up about, I can't do this kind of math right now, 38 minutes from now, because I'm all about accuracy. 38 minutes from now, we'll be joined by Jason Cole, Outkick.com senior NFL writer. Get some thoughts with him on the latest goings-ons in the NFL. So we have that to look forward to. Big day around the sports world, not just on the fields or courts or ice, but in the media as well. I'm going to save it for the last hour of the show, but it was a bloodbath today. It was like Game of Thrones. Like what? White, was it the Red Wedding? Is that what they called it in the? Yeah, it was the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. It was essentially the ESPN version of the Red Wedding today. Everybody was. I mean, my God, we knew there were going to be some names that came out in the list of people that were going to be let go. I mean, this has been talked about now for several weeks. The idea that you were going to have a lot of high caliber people from the on-air side. They hit the off-air side first, which made obviously less news because they're people you may not necessarily know, or lesser names, so to speak, that got cut loose from ESPN. Well, the names that went today, their names everybody knows. You could practically start a new network with everybody that was let go from ESPN today. I'm not saying that like flippantly or jokingly or trying to be like Joe Biden says, I'm not trying to be a wise guy. I think you could actually start a network with everybody that was let go from ESPN today. If somebody out there has a lot of money, you might want to do it. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy was shown his walking papers or handed his walking papers. I don't know, maybe he was shown them too. I don't know. But wild day at ESPN. We'll talk about that coming up in a couple hours on the show. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. And again, hit us up on the text line, 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549. Draymond Green got his bag tonight. Amazing. The Warriors are just... I mean, look, they had two options. It was start the tear down now and let Draymond go. You knew they weren't going to do that when Jordan Poole was sent packing to Washington to go play for the Wizards. You knew that mean they had made a choice, a conscious decision to choose Draymond. And you could see the writing on the wall with the stories that started to come out this week about the fact that guys on the Warriors weren't happy with Jordan Poole, or how Jordan Poole handled getting punched in the face, sucker punched by Draymond Green. As if, I mean, I talk about the ultimate in victim blaming. Wow. I want to talk about that, but we'll do that coming up about an hour from now on the show, the whole Draymond and how we got to where we are today and what it means for the Warriors. Can they actually rally the troops, circle the wagons with this group and still be a championship team again next year? I think absolutely everything would have to go right for them. Because I'll still say this, if you put them in a 7-game series with the Denver Nuggets as comprised now, I'll still take Denver every time. Denver's just got deep. Denver has depth. They still have the best player on the court in Nikola Jokic. And now they have the confidence of knowing they can win a championship because they just did it. They're no longer the team that has to get over the hump. They've crossed the hump. But the Warriors chose relevancy and still being good enough to put fans in the seats over a rebuild. We're coming back. Lots more to do on the cash-in. Stay with us. Thank you for dealing with that. Friggin' Yankee game got rained out. So irritating. What'd you say? Yeah, I'm still not convinced on the Kings defensively. Yeah. By all the metrics, they are a really bad defensive team, and I don't know how that changes without changes in personnel. You know, I'm not sure about them. Oh, Derrick Rose, 2-year deal with the Grizzlies. Wow. D Rose. Could understand that. Oh, Jesus. The guy can't even shoot 40%. Talk about a waste of money. Still got to be good players. It's like spending money for the sake of spending money. Quarter past the hour. It's funny. I was reading an interesting article last night in bed as I was getting ready to doze off. Hold on, mute my television there. Here in the studio. So I was reading an interesting article about why Mariner fans hate the Mariners. Now, this was like the story of last year with Seattle, the resurgence of Mariner baseball, going back to the playoffs, the Cal Raleigh home run sent them to the postseason. Yay, everything was great. And a noted sports columnist up in the Great Northwest wrote an interesting piece, and I was delving into it last night. The article was titled, let's see if I can find it. I put it in my reading list, and now I don't know how to get to my reading list. It's great. But anyway, it was basically saying why, 6 reasons that fans can't stand the Seattle Mariners. And I mean, obviously, a lot of it comes down to the fact they just haven't played as well as they did last year. And a lot of guys have come up short of, expectations that rose on the heels of last year. But fact of the matter is, you get these stories, and I could probably go through the last 10 years of baseball and find you a story like the Mariners. If we sat here and did a real deep dive on this, if I had, a crack staff of 5 or 6 people working on this show like every other sports radio show seems to have these days, I could probably get the information that will show you that every year you get one outlier in baseball. You get at least one outlier, and this year you might get 2 or 3. But every year in baseball, you get one outlier, a team with not a huge payroll, the combination of young guys coming up at the right time that are able to do some things, and you make a run to the postseason, and then the next year they disappear. Then the following year, when you're like, okay, that was our breakthrough, it really wasn't the breakthrough. It was just an anomaly. And we get it every year in baseball. The year of the work-shortened season, I think it was Baltimore that did it. The Marlins made the playoffs with Don Mattingly as their manager. And everybody was excited about, the prospects of Marlins baseball. I think that was actually early in the Derek Jeter era, if I'm not mistaken, too, after they had traded away Giancarlo Stanton for a bag of baseballs to the Yankees. These things happen every year. And you know who the team is this year. You know who baseball's version of that team is this year. And it remains to be seen whether it's the start of a lengthy run of success and the start of a real building of a foundation. Who's that team this year? Cincinnati. It's 100% the Reds. Nobody expected the Reds to be in a position where they'd be competing. Even in a mediocre National League Central, nobody thought that, we'd be talking about Cincinnati in that vein. But here are the Reds doing their thing. Wow, is that right? Twins lead the Orioles tonight 8-0 in Baltimore after 5. And I'm not going to put Baltimore in that group because anybody who's paid attention to baseball over the last couple of years and has looked at this Baltimore farm system would have known this was coming because they had so many great prospects down in the minors. They drafted so well, and they drafted high for such a long time because they were terrible forever, that eventually some of those draft picks were going to have to start cashing in. But they didn't need all of them to be great. They only need about half of them to be good. And I'm not even talking great, but good. And they've still got more coming down the pipeline with Jordan Westberg and Kobe Mayo and Heston Kjerstad. All these guys. Baltimore is set up to be the team. They go add 1 or 2 names in free agency to help pitch in that park, which has become a much more pitcher-friendly ballpark. Baltimore is going to be the team of the next decade in the American League. Not just the American League East, the American League. They are positioned that well. So them being in that list this year is not a surprise. Arizona. Who had Arizona? Who had the Diamondbacks? Who had Arizona as even the 4th best team in the National League this year? I mean, in the National League West this year, and they're the 3rd or 4th best team in all of the National League. So, I mean, you get this every year in baseball. where one or two teams winds up surprising you, and then the following year they're back to mediocrity. Everything goes right. You win all the one-run games. You know how many times you win in your last at bat, all the walk-off wins. It's the narrative that gets set up throughout the entire year that plays out. And like I said, Cincinnati is probably that team this year because of the division they're in, where St. Louis is so heavily disappointed, where Milwaukee is just meh. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004 is the telephone number. You could text us. The cash-in text line is open, 888-670-8549. How does Fred VanVleet get $40 million a year? Somebody has to explain that. This is the combination of the new CBA, which says you have to hit a certain floor. You have to spend at least above a certain amount. You cannot simply field a trash team and try to save money. If we're going to have salary cap limits and we're going to do things like that, there's got to be a certain margin within which you are spending. It's got to be a certain area, you know, from the floor to the ceiling. And they've risen the floor, so teams have to spend more. So the Rockets, who got the booby prize in this year's NBA draft, because they didn't get one, they didn't get two, they didn't get three. They get the guys that you're going to hear about years from now that either wound up being really good and surprised people, or they were just afterthoughts in the draft. Who knows? But they get Fred VanVleet, who played in Toronto last year. This is a guy that was undrafted, mind you. I mean, could there... again, we would need the crack staff to go and look into this, which Decibel 88 has not yet been able to hire. I venture to wonder, has there ever been an undrafted free agent who will make more money in his career? You know, in the modern era of the NBA, is there anybody who's ever going to make more money than Fred VanVleet? Who was, you know, thought of as a guy that might have a marginal career in the league, bounce around, you know, play for 4 or 5 teams, maybe a 10-year career, come off the bench. You know the guy. We've seen him around the league forever. And instead, this guy's going to make $40 million a year playing for the Houston Rockets. And it just goes to show you right place, right time, timing, how it all matters so much. The combination of the new CBA, the amount of money Houston had to spend. Fred VanVleet got 3 years, $130 million. So he got $43 million a year. Can I do you one better? You ready for this? You ready for this, Charles? Fred VanVleet is getting more money next year than Kyrie Irving. This is what I mean. This is stupid. And I don't even like Kyrie Irving. But Fred VanVleet for 3 years is getting $130 million. Kyrie Irving's getting $126. It's silly. That's why the numbers sometimes just become... I mean, we get all enamored with the numbers and the salaries and all that stuff, and we guffaw at some of these ridiculous figures that these guys get. But here's the reality. How much are you helping your team? You know, does your team still have flexibility to make other moves? I mean, that's obviously a part of the equation in all of this. You know, Dallas is going to be hamstrung now in terms of what else they can do. Like we said, they go and get Seth Curry, the brother of Stephen Curry. But it just, when you start to see numbers like Fred VanVleet getting $130 million for the same number of years and Kyrie Irving getting $126 million for that same, you can't take these seriously. Am I supposed to believe that even for a scintilla in time that Fred VanVleet will ever be better than Kyrie Irving? The answer is no. It's laughable. Derrick Rose to the Grizzlies. That move just coming down moments ago, according to Adrian Wojnarowski over at ESPN, one of the survivors of the Red Wedding at ESPN today. Derrick Rose, 2 years on a deal to the Grizzlies. And you know that team's going to need help at the guard position with everything going on with Ja Morant. Justin Termini on the other side of SiriusXM NBA Radio and NBA Today. We'll talk about all the moves on the cash-in. It's SportsMap Radio. All right, this is a pre-tape. I got it. I'll tell you in a moment. Just give me a Momo. A Momo. That's what we call it. A Momo. Just a thing, I guess. Back in a Momo. Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show, NBA free agency has started in earnest. Guys are signing everywhere. Where will everybody be when the musical chairs ends? We'll have to wait and see. Bring in our man Justin Termini. He does a great job, host of NBA Today. SiriusXM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. All right, JT. There was all this conversation, the smoke and mirrors that take place before free agency actually begins. And when all is said and done, start with Kyrie Irving. He winds up right back where he was when the season ended.
Yeah, and
rolling along on this Friday edition of the show, NBA free agency has started in earnest. Guys are signing everywhere. Where will everybody be when the musical chairs ends? We'll have to wait and see. Bring in our man Justin Termini. He does a great job, host of NBA Today. SiriusXM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. All right, JT. There was all this conversation, the smoke and mirrors that take place before free agency actually begins. And when all is said and done, start with Kyrie Irving. He winds up right back where he was when the season ended. Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show, NBA free agency has started in earnest. Guys are signing everywhere. Where will everybody be when the musical chairs ends? We'll have to wait and see. Bring in our man Justin Termini. He does a great job, host of NBA Today. SiriusXM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. All right, JT. There was all this conversation, the smoke and mirrors that take place before free agency actually begins. And when all is said and done, start with Kyrie Irving. He winds up right back where he was when the season ended.
Yeah, and speaking of ended, I think what Dallas did was essentially end Luka Doncic's tenure in Dallas, because I think eventually, like everything Kyrie has touched over the last 6 or 7 years, he will create issues down in Dallas. Luka will find himself unhappy, and Luka will eventually ask out. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but this gets the ball rolling on the final stanza of Luka Doncic. And really, you look at what happened once he went over there. The team was
rolling along on this Friday edition of the show, NBA free agency has started in earnest. Guys are signing everywhere. Where will everybody be? Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show, NBA free agency. Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show, NBA free agency has started in earnest. Guys are signing everywhere. Where will everybody be when the musical chairs ends? We'll have to wait and see. Bring in our man Justin Turman. He does a great job, host of NBA Today. Sirius XM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. All right, JT. There was all this conversation, the smoke and mirrors that take place before free agency actually begins. And when all is said and done, start with Kyrie Irving. He winds up right back where he was when the season ended.
Yeah, and speaking of ended, I think what Dallas did was essentially end Luka Doncic's tenure in Dallas, because I think eventually, like everything Kyrie has touched over the last 6 or 7 years, he will create issues down in Dallas. Luka will find himself unhappy, and Luka will eventually ask out. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but this gets the ball rolling on the final stanza of Luka Doncic. And really, you look at what happened once he went over there. The team was in prime position to make a run towards the postseason. They fell out of the postseason. I believe they went 9-18 after Kyrie got there. He doesn't do the things that they need, which is play defense, which is to move the basketball, which is to do the small things in order to contribute to winning basketball. I do not like that signing at all for the Dallas Mavericks.
Let's start with some of the most recent news as we're doing our show. Fred VanVleet winds up spurring, the Toronto Raptors. He opts to go with the Houston Rockets, $130 million 3-year deal. For him down there. They had a ton of money to spend. I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. They had to spend it because they have to hit the floor in this new CBA. You've got to spend a minimum amount. So they go and do that with Fred VanVleet. How do you like that move?
Well, I like it for Fred VanVleet. I was going to make about $40-something million a year. This is a guy that was undrafted, so that is an amazing amount of money for anybody, but for a guy that's undrafted. So congratulations to Fred VanVleet. The Houston Rockets, I thought, okay, 2 years you can do this, and then you'll have a ton of money to spend 2 years down the road. 3 years is a little long, and that money is certainly absurd. Fred VanVleet's 6'1", 6'2", and shoots 40%. Guy shot under 40% this past year. The last 3 years combined, he is a 40% shooter. A 40% shooter, Jay, making $40 million a year. That, to me, I just can't wrap my head around it. To me, that is just utterly absurd. That's the contract thus far that has surprised me the most.
Chris Middleton, new 3-year deal, $102 million player option. He's going to stay with the Bucks. No real shock there, is it?
No, if he can stay healthy, he's certainly worth it. If he can't stay healthy like the last couple of years, then it's not going to look like a good contract. But ultimately, and Brook Lopez, who has yet to sign, is in the same spot. They need to bring back Chris Middleton. They need to bring back Brook Lopez, because Giannis Antetokounmpo could sign an extension in September. Not going to sign that contract if Middleton and Brook Lopez both walk out. So they need to keep these guys, and I think that's the leverage that those guys have in talks with Milwaukee. Is if they leave, Milwaukee gets significantly worse, and if Milwaukee gets significantly worse, all of a sudden you have an unhappy Giannis on your hands.
I got to ask you, and we're talking with Justin Termini, host of NBA Today, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday on Sirius XM. I'm watching all these seats get filled in free agency. I'm watching Chris Paul go to the Warriors. I'm watching Kyrie stay put. I know the Lakers still need help. I'm looking at all these big names starting to disintegrate across the market and go to other places. Yeah, the Lakers bring back Rui Hachimura, they bring back, they go and get Gabe Vincent, which feels like, Matt Schaub when he had like a good few games towards the early start of his career and then got a massive contract somewhere and went and was an average quarterback. I'm trying to figure out what the Lakers' plan here is in free agency to try and keep LeBron happy, but most of all, just make their team good enough so they could compete and win in the West.
Yeah, I thought they were really good last year. And even though they got swept, I thought they pushed Denver maybe harder than everybody else because their margin of victory, you looked at those games and they were relatively close. They had the second best record after the trade deadline in the Western Conference. They had the best defense in the NBA after the trade deadline. So they're not that far away. I'm concerned with the Gabe Vincent contract, and that you never know how these guys are going to perform. When it's like when guys used to, like a guy with Jokic, Bruce Brown gets a huge contract. It's like, okay, great, but what does he look like away from from Jokic? What does Aaron Gordon, who's a very good player, look like away from Jokic? Jokic's going to up the value. I think Eric Spoelstra probably does that as well with some of his guys. I thought Brad Stevens did it at the outset of his career, where you got like guys like Jordan Crawford, who Boston's getting first-round picks for, then he goes elsewhere, and the guy all of a sudden is playing overseas a couple minutes later. Like, so what is Gabe Vincent going to do in L.A.? Does he take maybe a step back and not look as good because he's not being coached by Eric Spoelstra in the system? So, like, that's a little bit of a signing which could go good but also could be bad. And then their main goal, like in this offseason, was re-signing Austin Reeves. That's one of the reasons why, hey, it's good that maybe some of that money has disappeared in Houston because it's a restricted free agent. And if one of these teams with cap space doesn't give him a big deal, maybe LA can get a little break on him. But Austin Reeves was their third best player last year, and they still need to sign him up before you would say it's a successful offseason.
Will they match any offer on him?
I mean, that's the word out there. The most he can sign elsewhere is 4 years, $100 million. And they say that they will match that. And, you know, he's worth around that. I would swallow hard, I guess, if I'm giving him 4 years, $100 million, but I would still end up doing it.
Draymond Green winds up back with the Warriors. It just sounds like they're going to run it back with the same group, adding Chris Paul to the mix. What do you make of what the Warriors have done here?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one more year than I would have liked to have given Draymond, especially since Curry's deal runs 3 more years, and you get to pay him till he's 37, $25 million. It's a lot. But, again, they weren't that far away last year. 2 years ago, they won a championship. This is going to be a much more intelligent team than the team that won a championship 2 years ago. And you think about this past year, Andrew Wiggins missed 45 games. That's not going to happen again as a result of the family issue. Curry missed 20-plus games. You're bringing back Chris Paul here, who's an upgrade over Jordan Poole. Gary Payton, who last year came over in the trade, only played 7 games, really wasn't healthy. He comes back healthy. So I think this is a better version of the team that we saw last year. Maybe not as good as the one that won the title, but a team that, with a couple of breaks, maybe can make a run again next year. Probably maybe a top team if they catch some breaks.
We know the Sixers aren't offering an extension to Tyrese Maxey. There had been some conversation that it could have something to do with a Damian Lillard move. What do you make of the moves we've seen so far, not just with the Sixers, but with all teams, in terms of trying to maybe position themselves to make a run at Lillard? Another team that's been quiet so far here in the opening hours of free agency is the Knicks. Could they get involved?
I don't think the Knicks should get involved with Damian Lillard because I really love Jalen Brunson, and I don't think they should go after Harden either. Now, Lillard's better than Jalen Brunson, but Harden's not better than Brunson, and I don't think they should mess with the Harden combination there next to Brunson. I think what the Knicks should be waiting for is Joel Embiid to get pissed off with what's going on in Philadelphia and maybe next year request a trade. I think that's what the Knicks should be focused on. But that's the thing here is a lot of these teams, like Miami's been relatively quiet. They bring in Josh Richardson, minimum deal. They bring back Kevin Love. But they might miss out on other things because they're like waiting for Damian Lillard to demand this trade, apparently, or maybe make a run at James Harden. And if those two things don't happen, like if Lillard never demands a trade, where does that leave Miami? It kind of leaves them in a tough spot after losing Gabe Vincent and Max Strus.
By the way, the latest move, too, Cam Reddish going to the Lakers as well on a 2-year deal. Take a flyer on him, see if he rehab his career there?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's got the talent. It's more about his attitude, where he's, gone through a couple of spots, Atlanta, New York. He's complaining about minutes. He's not earning the minutes. He just wasn't a Tom Thibodeau type of guy where he's, Thibodeau's complaining about his work ethic. So you hope with some of these guys that they get the message that, hey, you're running out of chances here. You could be out of the league. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a guy that you take, maybe he learns from the work ethic of LeBron being around him and can turn it around a little bit.
That's Justin Termini. He does a great job. NBA Today, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, Sirius XM, NBA Radio. Catch him there with Eddie Johnson. Always good to talk to you, my friend. Have a great weekend. We'll be following all the moves.
All right, Peter. Appreciate you having me on, buddy. Enjoy.
get his thoughts on this rash of NFL gambling suspensions that we're seeing, and a whole bunch more. The cash-in this opening hour continues on SportsMap Radio. Fix this friggin' cord. Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show. NBA free agency has started in earnest. Oh, he dropped it. Bum ba-dum bum bum bum. Ba-dum ba-dum bum bum. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. This is live. Yeah, so just normal rejoins, fine. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, look.
What up?
Life is beautiful. What's going on with you?
I'm still recovering. I've been sick for 8 days. I went to Seattle. I was sick. I came back. I was sick. They put me on all these meds, and now I know why I never take any medication because they just kick the crap out of you. Awful.
So it sounds like Seattle was not great if you were sick while you were there.
Yeah, it wasn't. And honestly, it's just the cost to the expense to live there. While there's no state income tax, spending $3,500 a month on rent to live in downtown Seattle, it's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
We're coming back. Hold on.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you for being a part of it. This Friday edition of the show. Next hour. Well, there is no next hour, depending on when you're listening, so there's no point in even mentioning it. I'm telling you, these meds are doing a number on me. I'm like 5 steps behind where I normally would be, which is already a few steps behind in the mental game right now. Trying to gut it out. Jason Cole is going to be our guest, NFL Insider Outkick.com. He does a great job over there. Also the author of this beautiful new book that you should get called Shut Up, Your Kid Is Not That Great. My goal is to help him sell as many books as possible so he can put his kids through college. No, I don't have to worry about putting your kids through college, do I, Jason?
No, you don't. That's done.
Yeah, that's already over with.
Yeah, that's over. Yep,
Shut up, your kid. Shut up, your kid is not that great. Let's see, page 94. Shut up, your kid's not the next NASCAR superstar. Just because your kid knows how to ride a quad and is great with go-karts doesn't mean they're going to be able to ride around in circles for 4 hours while holding in their urine. And eventually you're going.
I forgot I put that in there. There we go. Okay.
And eventually you're going to want them to learn how to turn right.
Yeah, that's true. That's all absolutely true. Yeah.
The name of the book is Shut Up, Shut Up, Your Kid Is Not That Great. Joined by Jason Cole on the show. So I've asked this question of a couple different people this week, and I'm asking the same one of you just because I'm just curious, different people, different perspectives, different eras in terms of people who have covered the league. I've asked a former player, I've asked a sports betting person, and now I'm asking you. Does the NFL just have a larger problem with its athletes betting, both on their sport and other sports and just a gambling culture in general? Or is it that the NFL is so heavily policing this that that's why we are where we are now in this conversation with all these suspensions taking place?
Yeah, they're just more heavily policing it, and it's paid attention to far more than other sports because the integrity of football would be in question. And there is nothing. I once had a conversation with Brian, who's the guy, the VP of the league, who's in charge of media. And
Brian McCarthy?
Escaping. No, not Brian McCarthy. He's up higher than Brian McCarthy. I'll think of the name in a minute.
Okay.
Anyways, and he just flatly said the biggest thing that scares them is a gambling scandal. So there is, there is nothing that scares them more than the potential for something to go wrong in this area. So they are watching it like hawks and trying to figure it out. But largely they're figuring it out as they go, as to know exactly what's wrong, exactly what's right. But the one thing that they clearly do not want their players doing is ever betting on NFL games because of the potential for insider information. You call a friend from another team to find out what's going on. That information gets around. It's just, it's all levels of craziness that they are just incredibly frightened by.
Well, given the kinds of suspensions that we're seeing, some for guys gambling on, NFL campuses and, NFL facilities, even on other sports, but also the stuff is as interesting as, hey, is, this NFL player going to, get over X number of yards, running back, prop bets, things like that, like we're seeing in the Colts situation. When you're seeing those sorts of things, does it lead you to believe that the league has to up the penalties? I mean, look, I don't think we'll ever see this issue in Major League Baseball because the example was made of Pete Rose. And even though that's a zillion years ago and there's guys playing today who probably even to some degree have very little clue who Pete Rose is and understand his importance to the game because it's so far removed, the one thing that's been a constant from Pete Rose being suspended for life by A. Bartlett Giamatti to where we are now is his attempts to get back into the game always being rebuffed. So he still always remained part of the headline. The example is there. Mm-hmm. Does the NFL need something like that? Do they need to put a policy in place that says you bet on anything NFL related, you're done. We're putting you on you're done forever. That's it.
Well, you're done for a year. They already did that with Calvin Ridley. Right?
Yeah, but 1 year is obviously not getting through, is it?
Well, these suspensions, and by the way, the person I was talking about is Brian Rolapp, who's their chief media and business officer. He's probably third in line in the NFL behind Roger and Jeff Patch. So that's what he was talking about. Anyways, answer your question, they don't know how to police the issue of legalized betting of other sports with people who are in a union and not technically management, right? They don't police those. They don't police the players the same way that they police, say, a team president or an equipment manager or an assistant coach, right? They don't. Those people literally work for a team and therefore the league, etc. And there have been, guys who lost their jobs before. I think, famously there was a member of the Chicago Bears PR staff who was fired because he was heavily involved in gambling. Now, I think he was actually gambling on NFL games. But they can police staff personnel. They can't police NFL players the same way, other than to say you cannot gamble on football itself, on the NFL, I should say, itself. So they have drawn that line, and they're going to have to continue to draw that line. And yes, probably make some examples out of people along the way, a la Pete Rose. I mean, nobody remembers Paul Hornung, or Alex Karras, missing games, but it will be something along those lines.
Talking with Jason Cole, NFL insider, Outkick.com. He's also a Hall of Fame selector, joining us here on the Cash In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. And I'll even say this, and I talked about it a little bit last night. There's an issue even with them gambling on other sports, because as well as I do, all these guys are friends. They all, say agents and things like that. I mean, NFL players know NBA players know baseball. I mean, all these guys are sometimes in these different circles. Yeah. I mean, isn't that an issue from a gambling integrity standpoint? If you get an NFL player passing on information to a Major League Baseball player who's gambling on an NFL game, doesn't it just become all intertwined in this way where integrity and betting in general is going to be a problem?
The biggest problem that they worry about is people giving away information to professional gamblers, right? So Billy Walters, being the most famous publicly known professional gambler, but there are tons of others, right? We're known. But Billy Walters in his heyday was the greatest gambler of all time, right? He managed new systems and all sorts of ideas. But the biggest thing that Billy Walters did is he had information. And what the NFL fears is people giving away information, even though I'm 1,000% convinced that if you did enough work on enough personnel, you're going to find some low-level flunky, assistant trainer, assistant coach, equipment guy who's trying to give information, who's getting bribed for information. Like, who's practicing this week, who's not practicing this. I've been on private betting sites, that are invitation-only sites where you have to be approved. And the amount of information I see flowing on those kinds of sites that you wouldn't see out in the general public is pretty staggering.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's much more detailed and intimate information than you will find in the general public.
Okay, you got to text me that info. I've got 45 seconds. Is Dalvin Cook signing with Miami or what?
At some point, that I would say they're the leading contender. I mean, look, it's just a game of cat and mouse right now. Veteran players don't have any reason to sign now. They wait until a week before camp, or even into camp, because I think there's a lot of coaches who they find out, are you in shape or not in shape? Or they go and have somebody check you out. Are you ready? Okay. If you're ready, I don't need you for the first 2 or 3 weeks of camp. Okay. I need you to get ready in the last month. So if you do that, you can, sign a contract, 2 or 3 weeks into camp. I don't need to burn you out early on. And, that depends on the player that you're talking about. But yes, I think that this is
Okay.
For all those guys who are out there, whether it's Dalvin Cook, whether it's Marcus Peters, whether it's DeAndre Hopkins,
I gotta run.
they're gonna sign someone. Okay,
Jason Cole, NFL Insider, Outkick.com. Always appreciate it, my friend. Check out his book as well. That's the end of the hour. We're coming back. Thank you, sir.
Anytime, dude. Talk to you later.
Yeah, I will. I'll tell you that is interesting. The info about the stuff you see on some of those gambling sites, though. I mean, that really is fascinating.
It's staggering.
That you're saying, and basically what you're saying is it can only be coming from inside. Like the call has to be coming from inside the house.
Oh, absolutely. It's information that comes out of practices where the reporters aren't at the practice.
Right.
Okay. Otherwise, that's public information.
Right.
So, yep, absolutely. Those guys existed for 15 years. So, that I know about.
Wow. All right, my man. Have a great weekend.
I'll
Thank you. I always appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Yep. No problem. Bye.
Wow, that's interesting. Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. The 2 interviews in that hour and the stuff I talked about with baseball in the second segment for the podcast. Okay. The 2 interviews and the baseball stuff from the second segment. Thank you. Not what I thought it was. Let's do it, Charles Carter. Yeah. Another hour of the show starts right now on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Thank you for being with us. Yankees-Cardinals rained out tonight. Split twin bill doubleheader on Saturday. After the Yankees won their last two in Oakland after dropping the opener of that series. Of course, Domingo Germán with the highlight of the week in sports. A perfecto. Perfect game. Pretty awesome stuff. I was talking about the Reds last hour, by the way, and here's the perfect example of there being one of these teams every year in Major League Baseball. Ready for this, Charles? Charles Carter, producer, engineer, working the show in Houston tonight. Ready for this one? There you go. The Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds have 30 comeback wins this year. And we're not, it's stupid. I mean, we're not even halfway through the season. I mean, we are, basically right at the halfway point. But they have 30 comeback wins this year. It is. No, not at all. Not at all. I'm a story guy, though. I'm a story guy, and I'm in the story business. And in the story business right now in baseball, the Reds are one of the best stories in baseball. I mean, there's no getting around it. There's good stories in baseball. You know who else is good? A great story in baseball right now? This kid, Patrick Bailey, for the Giants, who sucked it up in like AAA last year or AA, wherever he was. He gets called up this year. He has a nice start to the season in the minors. He gets called up. He's hitting over 300. He hits the game-winning 3-run home run for the Giants tonight. Him and Casey Schmidt have single-handedly made the Giants a contender out in the West this year, or at least a team that's in the mix for the postseason at 46-36. They beat the Mets tonight. They're 2 games out of first in the NL West. I'm in the story business. The Reds are a great story. The Rangers in the AL West, great story. We'll get to them coming up in this hour because they made a very interesting move today, which should give everybody all the feels and all the signs that the Texas Rangers, they're in it to win it. Like Randy Jackson used to say, you're in it to win it. Come on, dog. The Rangers are in it to win it. There's no getting around that. You do. Speaking of in it to win it, the A's are beating the White Sox tonight 4-1 out in Oaktown. Twins lead the Orioles 8-1, bottom of the 8th tonight. So the Orioles laying a bit of an egg. Baltimore's played kind of mediocre over there last time. The whole AL East has just been mediocre over there over the last couple weeks, week and a half. Dodgers putting a hurting on the Royals. My boy, I keep telling you people, I keep telling y'all, watch Ezekiel Tovar. This prospect for the Rockies, I've been watching him since last year when he was at AA Hartford in the Eastern League. I know the Rockies are the Rockies are a trash baseball organization. And I say that as somebody who literally was with the Rockies organization from day one. I've told you this, right, Charles? Have you heard this story? I was the bat boy for their AA baseball team, their first year in professional baseball. Say, there you go. You've got just say, I got the receipt, Paige. You just tell me, I got the receipt. Whenever I share a story that you've already heard, just say, I got the receipt. All right, you got the receipt. Fine. But I was a bat boy for their AA minor league baseball team in 1994. So I have been Rockies before any of y'all were Rockies. I got the jersey of the New Haven Ravens. I got a baseball card, a minor league baseball card with me on it. I got it all. So ain't nobody going to come and question me when it comes to the Rockies. I was there when Quentin McCracken was playing AA ball. When Juan Acevedo was pitching, Rodney Pedraza. I was there with all of them. So ain't nobody coming after me listening on Mile High Radio in Denver. I'll tell you right now, I was the original Colorado Rocky at the New Haven Ravens. AA baseball. Paul Zuvella, the manager. banishing me from the home dugout. Now, I know I didn't tell this story. This is a true story. 100% not a single bit of embellishment. About 2 weeks into the season, Charles, you're going to love this. About 2 weeks into the season, I'm sitting right outside the New Haven Ravens dugout. Again, AA affiliate of the Rockies. I'm 16 years old. Paul Zuvella is the manager, former Major League Baseball player with the Royals, I think he played for. I think he spent some time with the Yankees. He's the manager of the Rockies, AA team in New Haven. And I'm sitting right outside the dugout next to where he is. Somebody gets thrown out stealing on the Ravens. And literally, because I'm like anybody else, I'm a fan. I literally, at the top of my lungs, yell, "What is he doing stealing?" Swear to God. Hand on a Bible, swear to God. Strike me dead if I'm lying. And I just looked to my right with this look of terror, and Paul Zuvella just shot me a look. He didn't say a single word. He just looked at me as if to say, "What did this kid just say?" The next game, and for the remainder of the season, I was the bat boy for the visiting team for the rest of the year. Swear to God. Swear to God. I was the bat boy for the visiting team for the rest of the year. And those players made my life miserable. Every prank known to man. The 3-man lift, key to the batter's box, you name it. I mean, I got them all. Oh, want to try tobacco for the first time? It's 101 degrees with 70% humidity today at the ballpark. Here, Jason, do some chew with us. Throwing up in the locker room, them sitting there videotaping it. Oh, yeah, I got it all. I got it all. But it all went back to that moment where I questioned why Paul Zuvella had this guy stealing in like the second week of the season, and he got thrown out at second. And I'm like, what's he doing having him steal? Like I'm sitting there watching the game on my television. Yep, true story. True story. Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I did it. It's crazy. I don't know. Is Paul Zuvella still alive? He probably wouldn't even remember me. Be funny to get him on the show. Paul Zuvella is still alive. Zoo is still alive. He's mid-60s, 65. I don't know what he's doing now, though. I don't know if he's still managing in the minors or anything like that. Hey, he played a few years in the big leagues. Played for Atlanta. Love Paul Zuvella. It's awesome. I'm gonna have to look. He's actually not far from here. He's in California. I should look him up. We should do like a reunion, like those trashy reality shows where they have a reunion. You just yell at each other. That'd be fun. Oh, I don't watch. Come on, you watch. That means you watch them. Oh my God, I just caught you out. Yeah, I just heard about it from a friend, is what you're saying, right? Yeah. Sure. Wow, so that's your... Wow. But going back to Ezequiel Tovar, which was the point of all of this, whenever I get lucky and hit on a good, baseball card of a potential prospect, it's low numbered, it's autographed, something like that, you suddenly take an interest in the trajectory of a particular player. And Ezequiel Tovar was one of those guys. When I picked up one of his cards in a box a couple of years ago, and I've watched his rise through the organization as one of their top-rated prospects, and now he's on a 13-game hitting. He's a rookie. 13-game hitting streak. He's hitting .269 after 2 more hits today. He had a 3-run home run for the Rockies in an 8-5 win over the Tigers at Coors Field. And bless the hearts of those Rockies fans. Man, if you are in Denver listening to us on Mile High Radio, say hello. Shoot me a note on the text line, 888-670-8549. I want to know why Rockies fans. Is there nothing to do in Denver in the summer but go watch bad baseball? And I'm not even saying and nobody can sit here and question what I'm saying when it's bad baseball. They're 33-51. Going into today, they had the worst record in the National League. I mean, there's no questioning it's bad baseball. But bless the hearts of those Rockies fans. That organization, that ownership group, they don't deserve these fans spending their hard-earned dollars on a team that they continue to trot out there every year that happens to be this bad. But, man, they showed up. 47,239 at Coors Field. I mean, that's something. And Tovar, man, that dude is going to be, he's going to continue to be fun to watch. And Nolan Jones, who they got basically for a bag of baseballs from the Cleveland Indians organization. Oh, I said Indians. That's it. Yeah. From the Guardians organization, Nolan Jones has been a revelation for them. He's hitting .315. Who knows how long any of these guys wind up being in Colorado, because what they do in Colorado is great players come in and then they get traded when it's time to sign them to a long-term contract. NBA free agency news. We gave it a little rest. We'll come back to it on the other side. The latest signings. How have the odds shifted, if at all? It's next on the Cash-In. Yeah, that Paul Zuvella story is pretty funny. Oh, home run. Randy Arozarena. Thanks for being with us. Randy Arozarena, a 2-run home run for the Tampa Bay Rays. Gets them to within 2 in Seattle. it is 4-2 Mariners. Arozarena, 2 straight seasons of 20-plus home runs. And with 20, prior to the All-Star break and basically halfway through the season, you could be talking about that real bust-out year for Arozarena if he remains healthy. Luis Arraez, a hit in 4 bats tonight. The average drops down to 390. I mean, he has the potential to rack them up in bunches, so I don't go too deep into it with his average dipping to 390. But where it does get interesting is this bet on the All-Star game. And there was a bet, would he be hitting 400 by the time we get to the All-Star game? And you're talking, 2 weeks until the All-Star game? Something like that. Even less, I think. When's the All-Star game? Hey, Google, when's the Major League Baseball All-Star game?
On the 11th of July.
11th of July. Hey, Google, stop. So there you go. 11th of July. So you're talking another week for him to get to 400. That bet's not looking very good right now. It is NBA free agency signing frenzy night around the bigs, around the NBA, I should say. The latest news as of, let's see here. Well, it looks like it's calmed down a little bit now. It looks like the Derrick Rose to the Grizzlies on a 2-year deal is the last big move that we might see tonight. But we'll wait and see. We'll hang with you guys throughout the night. The Grizzlies get Derrick Rose on a 2-year deal. Rose basically didn't play at all. You scared the hell out of me when you played that music. Turn that up. That's good stuff. That's John Tesh, man. Yeah. I was like, is that my computer playing random NBA music? Yes. If the NBA ever winds up back on Peacock or NBC, they got to bring that thing back. Derrick Rose, 2-year deal to the Grizzlies. He barely played for the Knicks last year. And the Grizzlies, quote, want him on the floor this season as a leader and as a leader in the locker room. Reggie Jackson. The Nuggets agreeing to deals to bring back point guard Reggie Jackson and center DeAndre Jordan. Jackson's deal said to be 2 years, $10.25 million. If you missed it at the top of the show, the big news tonight, Mavericks go and get Kyrie Irving. And then a slightly more under-the-radar deal. Seth Curry, who played in Dallas, then went to the Nets, is going back to Dallas. And Dennis Schroeder leaving the Lakers for the Raptors, 2 years, $26 million. So, good stuff. All right, that's enough of the NBA music. I can only do so much of that. Cam Reddish, a 2-year deal with the Lakers. It's hard enough for me to keep my thoughts straight with all the meds swimming in my head right now. They gave me, I shared this story briefly on the show last night. I was given a medication because I was having an issue that came with this illness that I had that had me uncontrollably itchy. And they gave me a medication which secondary purpose is to help the itching. Its main purpose is an anti-anxiety medication. So when I tell you it basically shut my brain off for the last 3 days, I can't take this pill ever again. Like, its reaction was so severe for me that today, like, things were not computing for like 3 or 4 seconds after I had taken, after the action has happened. You know, like somebody would say something to me, it would take 3 or 4 seconds and then I would respond. Yes, I was Robert Redford in the movie Awakenings. For anybody who's never seen the movie, go look at Robert Redford in Awakenings. I was practically catatonic with drool coming out of my mouth. I've never experienced any like effect from a pill the way this affected me. Like I was useless. I was trying to do work for the show tonight, and I was done. I had to go to sleep it off, let the meds wear off for like 2.5 hours, and then I woke up and I was okay. But I can't take another one of those pills. The thing killed me. Fred VanVleet, the big news of the night, probably the biggest surprise of the night. And here's why. He will make more money over the next 3 years than Kyrie Irving will. Let that sink in for a moment. Marinate in those juices. 3 years, $130 million for Fred VanVleet. And Kyrie's getting 126 for 3. The Heat, bringing back Josh Richardson and Kevin Love. Love was there last year. Richardson had been there previously. He was drafted 40th in the 2015 NBA draft. Shake Milton's got a 2-year, $10 million deal with the T-Wolves. Team's noticeably quiet, though. You know, the Heat go and make those minor moves with Richardson and Kevin Love. You know, the Heat were in the NBA Finals last year, and they know they have a lot of work to do if they're going to be able to get back to that position this year. Because Milwaukee's certainly not going to rest on their laurels, and neither are the Celtics. What are the Heat doing? What are the Knicks doing? So far, the Knicks, it's, 11:21 p.m. Eastern time. Have you seen your child lately? Where are the Knicks? What are you doing as an organization to try and improve this roster beyond a team that gets, bounced in the second round of the playoffs? Is it James Harden that they want? Is it a trade for Damian Lillard? The fact that they're this quiet tells me they must be trying to set up the big home run ball. They're swinging for the fences. They're not looking for any of this little stuff to sort of fill in the gaps. The Knicks are trying to do something much bigger in this offseason. And there's a risk reward to that. You put all your eggs in one basket, you don't hit. You're coming back basically with the same team next year that you had this year. And while that's enough to win you 47 to 50 games, you have to question whether it's enough to get you over the hump in the East. In fact, you don't even have to question it. You know the answer, and it's no. The Lakers made a curious signing, 3 years, $33 million for Gabe Vincent, who obviously had the great playoff run with the Heat, but that is always a risky move. Small sample size, yes, an important sample size, and a guy that clearly can play. But how does he translate over 82 games with LeBron in that system, with that group, with that team? Rui Hachimura was brought back as well. Lakers saying goodbye to a couple other guys that were sort of bit pieces. The Nets bring back Cameron Johnson, 4 years, $108 million. He'll get a chance to rack up huge numbers for that team. Chris Middleton back to the Bucks, 3 years, $102 million. That's not a surprise. And I'm saving the best for next segment. And that is the news of Draymond Green's, well, what we all knew was all but a certain return to the Warriors, given the fact that they sent Jordan Poole packing. The organization obviously had a choice to make Draymond and Jordan Poole. They couldn't have them both on the same roster next season, given everything that transpired this year. Well, they made their decision when they traded Jordan Poole away. The only question was, how much money was Draymond Green going to get? We found out. And this week was a week where you could just see the narrative being set up with the Warriors making sure to leak certain information out there to certain reporters at certain outlets to try and make Jordan Poole look like the reason all of this didn't work this year. Had nothing to do with Dre punching Jordan Poole in the face. Had nothing to do with Andrew Wiggins missing all this time. It had nothing to do with, Klay Thompson's inconsistent play. Everything was Jordan Poole's fault. Everything is on Jordan Poole. We'll talk about it coming up in a couple of minutes here on the show. Jeremy Grant, 5 years, $160 million to the Blazers. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of cabbage. Yep. and it makes sense. The move makes sense for them no matter what they're going to do with Damian Lillard. So I'll be interested to see the Lillard and Harden. Lillard, Harden, and Westbrook are the three big shoes that have yet to drop. Why do I have a feeling Westbrook's going to wind up on the Knicks next year? And I'm just going to be shaking my head all year. We'll come back, get to the Draymond Green stuff as we continue. The Cash-In at SportsMap Radio. Me too. halfway home on this Friday edition of the show. Got a thought on NBA free agency? Text it to us. 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549. That is the cash-in exclusive text line that is only available for this show. No other show here on the network has that. 888-670-8549, the cash-in exclusive text line. What NBA free agency move is of most interest to you? David in Austin, Texas texted the show in the last hour. My apologies, I haven't gotten to it sooner. He said, what are the Spurs' odds to make the playoffs next year? I don't mean to laugh and be dismissive of the question. That is not my intention with that chuckle. I don't get the sense the odds are all that good. However, for you, I will take a look. Wow, there's betting odds on the big three. Yeah, but you don't want the job anyway, so what does that matter? Let's see here. Latest odds on the I'll tell you what, the Spurs do not have the worst odds. The Spurs do not have the worst odds. Detroit, Charlotte, and Washington are plus 50,000. Oh, I'm sorry. This isn't to make the playoffs. This is to win the whole thing. I don't know if there is one to just make the playoffs. Let me see here. NBA odds to make playoffs 2023. Let's see if I can find it here. Here we go. Odds to make the playoffs. Updated odds to make the playoffs for all 30 teams. Here we go. Let's see here. The Warriors' odds to make the playoffs. Is this possible? They seem awful. Oh, that's to win the title. To make the playoffs. Team futures to win the East. No, you know what? It's not even there for that. It's hard to find to make the playoffs. NBA playoff props, NBA playoff odds tracker. No. Make a move. They're going to take their time and build this thing with Wembanyama. Yeah, you're not making any big moves. You might go and get a couple of veteran guys. I'll tell you the team that I'll give you an example. I'm glad you brought that up. I had been wanting to see what Orlando would do, because Orlando, after a slow start last year, was basically a 500 team for like the last 50 or 60 games of the season. And they've got a real core there with Paolo and, some of these other guys, Anthony and Bol, who I love. They've got a real group of good, young, talented guys down there. What they don't have is any veteran leadership. So they went and got Joe Ingles here in this free agency period on a 2-year deal. And that's one of those veteran sort of glue guys, can make some shots, teach guys a little bit about how to win, that sort of thing. I was curious to see if they would do something in that vein, if they would go and make some moves in this offseason. So far, they have not. But, yeah, what were we going to say? Yes, they do. I'll tell you right now, I'll take the Orlando roster over the Houston roster. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Yeah. That Orlando team beat good teams this year. Houston couldn't beat anybody. I mean, Orlando, go and look at some of the wins Orlando had this year. They beat Boston a couple of times. Orlando's a good team. Orlando's on the come. Yeah, they did. But trust me, Orlando's roster. I like Orlando. I'm buying what Orlando's selling if they can add some veterans. And again, it's a tough place to get people to play because if you're going to go play in Florida, you're going to go play for Pat Riley in Miami. That's part of the problem here. Oh, the culture there is so broken. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take some real time to fix that. I don't It's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask to try and fix that. I mean, I'm not obviously going to judge them based on what they are at the end of year one with Ime Udoka there. You're going to judge by them being competitive, though. You'll judge Houston by, are they competitive? Because last year there was just so many games where they weren't even competitive. So Detroit, Charlotte, and Washington are plus 50,000. Orlando, Indiana, and Houston are plus 35,000. This is to win a championship next year, mind you. The Spurs are plus 25,000 as it relates. So, for what it's worth, I don't have the odds to make the playoffs. I have to go see if we can find something on that. If you happen to see it, Charles, in your searches anywhere, feel free to pop and let us know. To me, the whole thing with this, Draymond Green thing, which is what I wanted to talk about here, and I'm going to run out of time, but I could always stretch it into the next segment. The thing that I'm most curious about is when you go and put all of your blame game into the idea that Jordan Poole was the problem. When Jordan Poole, quite honestly, when that team was without Stephen Curry for a huge portion of last season, when he hurt, his shoulder or something like that, I don't remember. But they were without Steph for a while. Jordan Poole was one of the reasons that team was able to stay afloat and stay in the playoff race. He had some big games for them. And for everybody to sit here and say, well, the way he handled getting punched in the face by Draymond Green. Stop right there. Stop right there. If your rationale is how somebody decided to handle getting punched in the face, sucker punched in the face by one of his own teammates, and that guy didn't get suspended, that guy didn't get traded away, he was celebrated. He was celebrated by the organization, if anything, after he did that. Supported by fans, supported by everybody. So for anybody to sit here and castigate or cast aspersions on Jordan Poole for the way he handled something that no teammate should have to go through. I don't care what he said to him inside that practice that made Draymond Green lose his cool as a veteran in this league who's been around forever and should know better. I don't care what he said. Jordan Poole was not the problem here. And the Warriors rallying around Draymond Green as if to say, well, this is who we're choosing to go with our guy because we've won championships with him. That's fine. They're not going to win another championship. I'm sorry. I'll put anything you want on the line. Warriors will not win another championship with this group. Unless you're trying to convince me that Chris Paul's actually going to be healthy for a postseason. That this team somehow is now better with Chris Paul. Chris Paul's style doesn't work with this team. That's the one thing that nobody seems to remember in all this. Chris Paul can't run up and down the floor. That's how the Warriors score their points. You score, they come right back down, run the other way, and score. That's not Chris Paul's game. Chris Paul's a half-court offense guy. He's 37 years old. He can't play for 5 minutes without pulling a groin or hurting a hamstring or something like that. What makes you think he's going to fit in this style? But I sit here and say all this, and everybody say, well, what do you know about basketball? Watch what happens. And all these basketball geniuses out there that are telling you how good the Warriors are going to be. Watch who winds up being right. This isn't going to work, I'm telling you. And look, the Warriors have chosen being relevant, and I'm more than understand that. The Warriors have made the choice of being relevant and being able to win 50-plus games and sell those expensive seats in those luxury boxes in San Francisco next year. They have chosen that rather than the painful route of having to start tearing down this franchise to figure out how they win in the future. Can't blame a businessman for doing that. We're coming back. Wander Franco. Triple. Yeah, what was the exact quote? Yeah. See, that's funny. Yeah. Jesus Christ. It's trash talk. It's trash talk, man. Can't wait to see when the Warriors and Wizards play next year. Sign me up for that. Kuzma's a free agent. Hey, must be the money. Yeah, don't worry about it. I did see that the writer for the writer for The Ringer, right? That was on the podcast with Bill Simmons. Was that where you saw that? Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Here's Tovar. Ezekiel 1 for 2. High fly ball, deep left field. He got it. 3-run jack, Ezekiel Tovar. Toby Todd, 8th of the year.
His OPS was over 900 during this hit streak, and it's going to go on.
That is pretty funny. Good to have you with us. sometimes there are really no good answers to bad stories, why bad things happen. I'll get to that coming up in a couple of minutes. And in the next hour of the show, a lot of bad things happened to a lot of potentially good people today over at ESPN, which has me wondering about something that I will ask out loud coming up in the next segment of the show. We love walk-offs on the show. Pittsburgh and Milwaukee tonight. Give me one.
Carlos Santana tonight, 2 doubles, and he's been hammering fastballs from the left side. Santana cranks one, deep right, it is gone! A blast into the Allegheny, and the Pirates come back to win it. Wow, Carlos Santana's 37 years old. It just spun around a fastball like it was nothing.
Yep, Apple TV on the call. Pirates beat the Milwaukee Brewers tonight by a final score of 8-7, I believe it was. 8-7. And the Pirates hanging around in that ultra-competitive NL Central. Everybody but St. Louis is really in the mix out there. Love me some walk-offs. Cincinnati is 44-38, first place. Game ahead of Milwaukee. 4.5 ahead of Pittsburgh. And the Cubs at 38-42 are even only 5 out. So you've got 4 teams in the mix there. NL East. I mean, look at all the teams. The number of teams that are going to be in a difficult position to decide if they are buyers or sellers at the deadline. We get into this every time. We're a month away from the deadline, basically. And a month out from the deadline, I don't know how to decipher who's a buyer and who's a seller. Atlanta, obviously not selling. Atlanta, Miami, Philadelphia, all very much in the mix for the postseason. The Mets are 10 games under 500. They're 18.5 out of the NL East lead. But, if they can go on a run, you know what? Forget it. They're done. Let's just bury the Mets. The Mets are done. We've officially buried the Mets on this show. They're 36-46. You're halfway through the season. You're a 70-win team. I mean, we're done. We're done with the Mets. Let it sink in. In memoriam. Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Chicago. Still all technically in the mix in that NL Central. Now, who's going to be buyers? Maybe Cincinnati and Milwaukee. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to sell off their prospects. NL West, Arizona, Dodgers, Giants, all very much in the thick of it, within 2 games of each other atop the NL West. The interesting one, much like the Mets, is San Diego. And they've got all that high-priced talent out there. Do they just push a reset button and ship off some of these guys that are making a ton of money? 37-45. As far as the wild card is concerned right now, you're talking about San Diego. They're 9. I mean, San Diego's 9 back of the 3rd wild card with 4 teams ahead of them for that 3rd wild card. The Mets are behind San Diego, a game back of them. So those 2 teams to me are done. But you're really only talking about 5 teams in all of the National League that don't really appear to be going anywhere. And in the American League, Tampa Bay, Texas, Minnesota, Baltimore, the Yankees, Houston, Toronto, Angels. Even the Red Sox are only 4.5 out from the wild card. Cleveland's in the mix because they play in the AL Central. Seattle is 5.5 back of the AL West, or rather 5.5 back of the wild card. I mean, you've got 4 teams that are out of it. You've got 9 teams out of 30, essentially, right now. You've got 21 teams that have, decisions to make about being, well, some of them are certainly buyers. Some could certainly be basically on the fence on the idea of buying or selling. Mariners, one of those teams. We're watching them right now, bottom of the 5th. Seattle leads Tampa Bay 4-3. Mariners led 4-0 in this game, and the Rays have rallied for 3 to make it a 4-3 baseball game again as they play in the bottom of the 5th. out there in Seattle, where the Mariners have been very disappointing. Some stories just don't have good answers as to why. We could always look for reasons, try and search for something in the incomprehensible situation. And this story about Jimmy Johnson, one of the all-time greats in NASCAR, his in-laws, and we talked about it earlier in the week on the show. His in-laws, his mother-in-law and father-in-law died in a murder-suicide this week, along with their 11-year-old grandson. And you're always looking for a why. Why would a 69 and 68-year-old woman basically wind up dead in their Oklahoma home and an 11-year-old kid? I mean, an 11-year-old kid is dead. Apparently, his in-laws, Jack Janway, his wife Terry Janway, and their grandson Dalton Janway, who's just 11. Apparently, the parents, of his wife, were underwater in $475,000 in debt, filed bankruptcy in 2009, seeking relief from their financial woes. It's just awful. And again, that was in 2009. And now, 14 years later, we're trying to figure out why this happened. And you're always looking for a where or why or what, how. And people are going through sort of the paper trail to figure out how we got to this point. Nobody really knows. It doesn't sound like there was any sort of note or anything like that. But just a terrible story. And obviously Jimmy Johnson's not going to race this weekend. It's probably the furthest thing from his mind, which is certainly understandable, but just an awful, awful story for Jimmy Johnson, his wife Chandra Janway Johnson, and their entire family as they try to sort of pick up the pieces in whatever way you possibly can after something that is, again, so incomprehensible, the loss of life. Man, that was a tough story to read this week. In the midst of all the stuff we talk about in the day-to-day minutia of sports, you hear about something like that, and you're just like, really? What does it all matter? I mean, really. Let me finish the hour back on baseball here. So we're talking about buyers and sellers at the trade deadline and who could potentially wind up making a move. The Rangers have already made it clear where they are in all of this. Texas today, I was waiting to see who was going to make this meal. Who was going to make this deal. Got food on the brain. It's late at night here. Starting to crave that Wendy's Junior Bacon Cheeseburger. So good. Yeah, the Wendy's Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, no lettuce, no tomato. No. Yeah, no. I do it without that. I just want bacon, the cheese, the burger, and some mayo. That's it. I'm simple. No cheese. Just bacon, the cheese, the burger, and some mayo. Junior Bacon Cheeseburger. I don't like the lettuce or tomato. I don't trust fast food lettuce. You're not getting their best lettuce if it's fast food. You know what I mean? Yeah, I am not a fast food lettuce sort of guy. The only lettuce I trust that I get in fast food is from Taco Bell. I like the lettuce. Yes, because believe it or not, if you go and do your homework on this, some of the freshest produce in all of fast food is actually Taco Bell. Mm-hmm. I did homework on this. Oh, boy. Well, that is the name we did not speak on this show, but okay, go ahead. Mm-hmm. They hate the gays. They hate the gays. It's true, but tell me your Chick-fil-A story before we run out of time. I've eaten Chick-fil-A, but I have never put money in their pocket in my life. I will never put a dime in that company's pocket. But if other people want to buy me Chick-fil-A, I will eat it because it's good. I just will not support that company in any way, shape, or form. Not going to happen. And that's all I got to say about that. I'll get into the Aroldis Chapman to the Rangers deal coming up in the next hour of the show, because that thing could go one of two wildly different ways. Big news in the sports media on Friday. We'll get to it next. Chick-fil-A. Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. Oh, boy. I heard what the gist of the call was. What do you mean? Oh, is that David in Austin? Oh, shit. Why didn't he stay on? Oh, it was Dave in Connecticut. Really? Dave in Connecticut didn't hang on the line? Oh, he sent me the odds. No, that's Western Conference winner. I already know that. No. Yeah. You could have said it. They're not going to offend me. You could ask me. Well, you could ask me about it on the other side. Um, let me think. No, I don't think so. Nothing urgent. I'm going to talk about here with ESPN. We'll certainly probably want to put in. Friday/Saturday edition of the show. Good to be with you all. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. You can watch us on Twitch, Jason Page 77. You can watch us on Twitter at The Back Page. You can watch us on Facebook and YouTube. Just look for The Cash In with Jason Page. Flanked by producer, engineer extraordinaire Charles Carter. Good to be with you tonight. Charles, you said you got an interesting phone call during the top of the hour break. No lettuce, no tomato. Let's be clear. Yep. Patty, bacon, cheese, mayo. Yep. Correct. Yes. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Come on. So anyway, he brought up a point about my paying boycott of Chick-fil-A. I said I will eat Chick-fil-A. I will not pay for Chick-fil-A because they are an anti-gay company. They give money towards anti-gay causes. So I will not give them my money. However, if somebody offers to buy me their food, I will absolutely eat it because it really is tasty. I've never had any issues. I'm 45 years old, so I've had Jack in the Box. I don't know if I've ever had Jack in the Box burgers. I've eaten their breakfast sandwiches though. I like because their breakfast sandwiches are super cheap. Yeah. Oh, I love their breakfast sandwiches are really good. Now you got me thinking because there's a million Jack in the Boxes where I live. Yep. It's like a warm blanket. It's just always there for you. Yep, it is great comfort food. But I will not. I won't put any money in the pocket of Chick-fil-A, but I will eat the food if it's offered. It's good. Yeah. It's hard to screw up meat, though. It really is. Like, all you do is you throw it in an incinerator and it comes out looking brown. I mean, it's really hard to screw up fast food burgers. I've been inside those places. All right, fair enough. The opinions of Charles Carter, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking. Absolutely. Gaffney, South Carolina, checking in on the text line tonight at 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549. We were talking about the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole situation. Gaffney, Carolina, checks in, says, that is ridiculous, making Poole the antagonist and Green the victim. I agree. It is absolutely ridiculous. Sam in the Upper Peninsula just texted me and said, Culver's Boys. What is that? I'm not sure what Culver's Boys is. Sam, you're going to have to tell me. Yeah, you're going to have to tell me what that's about. Sam and up there, right? He said Culver's. It just says Culver's Boys. That was the text. I don't know if that's like a CULVER apostrophe S boys. James in Detroit, Michigan, texting the show, says, hey, Jason, Susie Kolber, Steve Young, Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, and Ashley Brewer. Absolutely awful day for those folks. Plus, a lot of others as well. Any initial thoughts about what happened today at ESPN from James in Detroit, Michigan? James, it's funny you should ask. I actually do have a lot of thoughts on the whole situation today that has happened there. Look, here's the reality. ESPN has spent like drunken sailors forever on things like play-by-play rights. And, everybody just thinks magically ESPN winds up with all these games on their airwaves and all these different leagues and all these different sports. That costs money. There's a reason your favorite NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL stars make so much money. You know why? It's because companies like ESPN pay through the nose for the broadcast rights to the games, and that gives a whole bunch of money, puts it into a pool for these owners, and then they can go and raise the salary cap, and they can go and pay for the players that you want to see. That's just the reality. But at some point, you've got to pay the piper. And the folks at Disney, which owns ESPN, at some point, they were going to come for theirs. If the balance sheet doesn't add up for Disney, they've got to look, all right, where can we cut back on spending? ESPN is costing us a ton of money. There is a thought one day that ESPN may get spun off into its own thing and sort of be disavowed in sort of a way from Disney, because it is such an albatross around the neck of Disney financially that Disney might just one day say, all right, enough of this. Now, we're still a ways off from that. But the reality is, Disney said there's got to be belt tightening across the board. Now, let me back up a second. Across the media landscape in total, there has been a ton of belt tightening. Okay, I can tell you as somebody who works in radio, hosts a nationally syndicated show every night, advertising dollars are not what they once were in the business. I have friends, I know people who work in some of the biggest markets in sports radio that find themselves out of work. Salaries aren't what they used to be. Ad revenue isn't what it used to be. You've seen the whole deal that's gone down with Diamond Sports. If you're in a market where you have Bally Sports, you've seen what's happened. Houston, hello. Phoenix, hello. San Diego, hello. You've seen what's happened with these places where Diamond Sports Group, which owns Bally Sports, can't make the payments to these teams for the rights to carry their games, and now those teams are having to basically stream their games in some sort of co-op with Major League Baseball. And this is going to continue to be a story throughout this season and throughout other sports now, as Bally Sports tries to get its finances, through Diamond Sports Group. They try to get their finances back in order. So as we see this sort of paradigm shift and this move towards streaming and a zillion different sports channels and avenues to get your sports, you're going to see a lot of big names in the sports media world going off on their own and going to some of these offshoot companies and some of these different brands and some of these different groups, and in some cases creating their own brands. Because they're big enough names, have big enough followings, they can go create their own star. They don't have to take their star to another outlet. Will some of these people inevitably wind up at Fox Sports? Yes. Will some of them inevitably wind up with CBS Sports? Yes. NBC Sports Group and Peacock? Yes. There's so many different platforms and outlets out there. Amazon Prime is getting into the live sports thing. Netflix wants to get into the live sports thing. Hulu, all of these different companies, that YouTube TV, everybody wants to get into the live sports game. It is a super uber competitive world. These guys are all going to find jobs. The name that surprised me the most was Jeff Van Gundy. Breaking up the team of Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson, and Mike Breen to me was just about the dumbest thing ESPN could have done. I get you got to cut back. I get you got to find some dollars and cents. But doing that at the expense of your best marquee broadcast team, the best thing you've got going for an NBA broadcast team, that made no sense to me. It's a mess over there. They let go of a lot of good people today. There's some other people there that aren't so great that still have jobs. You could try and ascertain as to why that is. But it is it's a tough business right now. My initial thoughts, though, are it sucks to be in that position. I've been laid off because of money before. I lost my gig with NBC Sports Radio, at the end of my deal, because at the end of the day, I was making more money than they wanted to pay for a certain time slot. It happens. I've lost a couple of jobs because of just the dollars and cents of it. It happens in this business. And all of these people are fine broadcasters. They do what they do very well. They're all going to find work. It's just they don't know where it's going to be at this exact moment. I'm sure some of them knew the writing was on the wall and that this could potentially happen today. Everybody in the industry knew, and if everybody in the industry knows, trust me, those people on the inside very much know. I've been part of these, sort of retrenchment calls and conversations with management, and we all know it's coming. You just don't know if you're going to be one of the heads that gets lopped off or not. But a lot of good free agent broadcasters sitting out there after the news that took place today at ESPN. I don't know if that's the last of it at the Mouse, but we'll certainly see in the coming days ahead. All right, I'll give you more on the Aroldis Chapman trade news. Going to the Rangers from the Royals. We'll update you on the Mariners and Rays, too. It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Of course. What are you talking about? No, the last two. I always replay them in the same exact spot in the last hour. Come on, we've been down. We played this rodeo before. Yeah, dude. This friggin' medication they put me on, I have never had something like chemically screw me up more than this shit. No, I got them from urgent care the other day because of, you can't get a doctor's appointment when you're sick. You always got to go to urgent care. So I went to this urgent care and they plied me with stuff I've never gotten for just, a really severe head cold. But like I said, the itchiness was what kind of, screwed things up. And so they put me on this thing, but it's also an anti-anxiety med. And which is interesting because I do suffer from anxiety disorder. I do suffer from it, but my thing is I've always vowed I would never take medication for it, and this only convinced me 100 times more of why I will never take medication for anxiety. Because I swear this shit just turned me into a zombie, man. Like I could not put a coherent sentence together this afternoon. I've been taking it for 3 days. Here's the funny thing. The required dosage is 4 times a day. I've been taking 1 in the morning, and it's been screwing me up. If I took 4, I'd be catatonic. I'd be positively catatonic. It's crazy. Drugs. Yeah. I go for anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia. Oh yeah, I go for everything. I'm a mess. Yes. Yes. Wow, how far did this go? Oh, I got to play this Ohtani home run. So we have the longest home run of the Major League Baseball season. Want to guess who hit it?
Shohei Ohtani leads off the bottom of the 6th inning against Tommy Henry, who's been outstanding for the Diamondbacks tonight. Oh. There's a drive! Shohei Ohtani gets the Angels on the board with his 30th home run, an absolute rocket!
He is truly fun to watch. He is turned into the best power threat in baseball.
This ball went 493 feet.
That's it?
He almost hit it 500 feet tonight. Wow. Can't go wrong with a little Rounders quote. Thank you, Teddy KGB. Yeah. Ohtani tonight, his 30th of the year. And, you know, look, who knows what motivates a man? So I am not one to try and get inside the head of Shohei Ohtani or any other player. But there is no way you can convince me. There is no way you can convince me that the Aaron Judge winning MVP last year, strictly for hitting 62 home runs. I mean, he had a great year and all the statistics were great, and I'll be the first person to say he was a certifiable, bona fide, MVP. And I'm the first one to scream that he should have gotten every vote. But with all that having been said, for Ohtani last year to put out the kind of year he did and not win the MVP, the greatest motivation in the world for him was watching Judge win that MVP. So you got a guy who's still one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player in the game, who's coming in motivated, a contract year, and you're getting, again, one of the all-time great regular seasons, at least through the first half of the year, that you're ever going to see in baseball. He's got 30 home runs. And yeah, the batting average isn't, insanely high, but it's still really good. Let me give you the Ohtani numbers here real quick, and then I'll get to this Aroldis Chapman deal to the Rangers. But here's Ohtani's numbers. He is never mind. I'm wrong about the average. I didn't realize the average was this high. Jesus. He's hitting .310. They're in the top of the ninth, by the way. Angels lead. I'm sorry. Diamondbacks lead the Angels 6-2. So Ohtani tonight, 1 for 2, that home run, his 30th of the year. He's got 67 runs batted in. So he's on a pace basically for 135, 130 runs driven in, 300, roughly 60 home runs. Oh, yeah, and he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. I mean, you try to deny him. He's going to be undeniable this year. As a pitcher this year, he's 7-3, a 3.02 ERA, 95 and a third innings, 127 strikeouts, and he's got a whip of 1.04. By the way, A's beat the White Sox tonight, 7-4. We're all about getting you the scores when we have them. Okay. The Rangers have struck the first blow of Major League Baseball's trade deadline, and we're still a month out from that trade deadline. The Rangers, one of the most dominant teams in baseball this year, go and get Aroldis Chapman from the Kansas City Royals, Cole Reagans, and Ronnie Cabrera. So a 25-year-old starting pitcher in Cole Reagans, a 17-year-old outfielder in Ronnie Cabrera were acquired from the Royals. Or that sounds, make sure I get that right. Make sure I get that information right. That doesn't sound right, does it? The Rangers get Chapman. I think they got this backwards, if I'm not mistaken. The Royals get Chapman. The Rangers get Chapman. The Royals get Cole Reagans and Ronnie Cabrera is my understanding. Chapman's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. They got him on a flyer, basically a one-year deal after the disastrous season with the Yankees last year. And Then he got a tattoo, which got infected. He couldn't pitch late in the year. The Yankees just sent him home and said, let's call it a day for everybody involved. See, here's the thing about the Rangers. Their bullpen statistics are not good. They're 24th in ERA. But the back end of the bullpen with Will Smith and Josh Boers have combined for a 2.71 ERA. So now you add him to that. You've basically got your 7th, 8th, 9th inning wrapped up for a lot of nights. And so far, Chapman, who's 35 years old, has actually put up pretty good numbers this year, especially considering he's pitching for Kansas City. 2.45 ERA, 53 strikeouts, 20 walks in 29 and a third innings in his first season with the Royals. So a month before the trade deadline, the Rangers get aggressive, improve a team that's 49 and 32. I mean, look, the Rangers are on pace to win 98 games right now, plus 157 in run differential. They have been one of the toasts of baseball this year without question. So, it's a good move for the Rangers. I don't think they have to worry about that team offensively. I think the question's going to be pitching, and I think this will not be the only move. This will not be the only move that the Rangers make to improve this team. You've got to go for it when you have the opportunity. You go and build a brand new stadium that's been open for a couple of years now. You go out and make the moves from Simeon and Seager and DeGrom, and we know how the DeGrom move is obviously blown up for that team with his latest rash of injuries and inability to stay healthy. You go and get Gray, Eovaldi. I mean, that team's good. That team is really good. You've got the Astros on a down year with injuries, Altuve, and now Yordan Alvarez. You've got to go and strike while the iron is hot, so to speak, and the Rangers are doing that. They're, like I said, to quote Randy Jackson, they're in it to win it. They are in it to win it, and I think they will be a big factor as we get towards the trade deadline. So I guess the name of the place that Sam in the Upper Peninsula was telling us about was called Culver's. Not Culver's Boys. Culver's, Charles. All right, so what is it? So is that a backhanded compliment to say they don't look half bad? Just saying. Okay. I've seen you though. You're of a certain size. You don't look like you'd turn down too many meals. Let's be honest. Now, I'm not, and that's not a shot. I mean, I'm heavy myself, but yeah. Fair enough. What do we still got going on in baseball? Angels right now trail at home 6-2, bottom of 9. Yuli Gurriel, by the way. Not Yuli Gurriel. The other Gurriel. Lourdes Gurriel. Grand slam tonight in that game for the Diamondbacks. Two of the biggest surprises in all of baseball, Diamondbacks and the Rangers this year. Oh, we got another move in the NBA. Just before we get to our conversation with Justin Termini. Thank you. Justin Termini will join us from SiriusXM NBA Radio coming up in about 6 minutes here on the show. NBA free agency, the news continues. We thought we were done for the night. Two other moves to tell you about. The Miami Heat are trading Victor Oladipo to the Oklahoma City Thunder for draft compensation. Thunder will take on Oladipo's $9.45 million salary in his expiring contract. You have to wonder if he winds up elsewhere or if they keep him and try to mix him in with that young, talented group they have there. That is certainly a possibility. Elsewhere, Tyrese Halliburton There is Tyrese Halliburton news with the Pacers here. Let me see if I can get this before we get to the other side. Let's see here. I don't see it popping up on my screen. It came across briefly on my phone. Halliburton. Come on. Here it is. Adrian Wojnarowski on ESPN reporting it. That the Pacers, come on, load up. Oh, computer's letting me down. May not get it in. Yep, time's going to run out on us. Justin Termini coming up on the other side to talk NBA trade deals. Stay with us. Halliburton and the Pacers agree on a 5-year max contract extension. Could be worth up to $260 million. He's going to get $52 million a year. Wow. That's crazy. I love it. It's the old CBS News. Yeah, I know the CBS News sounder. I used to work in news long before I worked in sports. It's good stuff. Where are you, Termini? Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show. NBA free agency has started in earnest. Guys are signing everywhere. Where will everybody be when the musical chairs ends? We'll have to wait and see. Bring in our man Justin Termini. He does a great job, host of NBA Today. Sirius XM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. All right, JT. Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show. NBA free agency has started in earnest. Guys are signing everywhere. All right, two quick pieces of news. Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers, 5 years, designated max contract, could be worth up to $260 million. The other piece of news, the Grizzlies and Desmond Bane, 5 years, $207 million. Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show, NBA free agency has started in earnest. Guys are signing everywhere. Where will everybody be when the musical chairs ends? We'll have to wait and see. Bring in our man Justin Terman. He does a great job, host of NBA Today. Sirius XM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. All right, JT. There was all this conversation, the smoke and mirrors that take place before free agency actually begins. And when all is said and done, start with Kyrie Irving. He winds up right back where he was when the season ended.
Yeah, and speaking of ended, I think what Dallas did was essentially end Luka Doncic's tenure in Dallas, because I think eventually, like everything Kyrie has touched over the last 6 or 7 years, he will create issues down in Dallas. Luka will find himself unhappy, and Luka will eventually ask out. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but this gets the ball rolling on the final stanza of Luka Doncic. And really, you look at what happened once he went over there. The team was in prime position to make a run towards the postseason. They fell out of the postseason. I believe they went 9-18 after Kyrie got there. He doesn't do the things that they need, which is play defense, which is to move the basketball, which is to do small things in order to contribute to winning basketball. I do not like that signing at all to Dallas.
Let's start with some of the most recent news as we're doing our show. Fred VanVleet winds up spurring, the Toronto Raptors. He opts to go with the Houston Rockets, $130 million 3-year deal. For him down there. They had a ton of money to spend. I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. They had to spend it because they have to hit the floor in this new CBA. You've got to spend a minimum amount. So they go and do that with Fred VanVleet. How do you like that move?
Well, I like it with Fred VanVleet. I was going to make about $40-something million a year. It's a guy that was undrafted, so that is an amazing amount of money for anybody, but for a guy that's undrafted, so congratulations to Fred VanVleet. The Houston Rockets, I thought, okay, 2 years you can do this, and then you'll have a ton of money to spend 2 years down the road. 3 years is a little long, and that money is certainly absurd. But Fred VanVleet's 6'1", 6'2", and shoots 40%. Guy shot under 40% this past year. The last 3 years combined, he is a 40% shooter. A 40% shooter, Jay, making $40 million a year. That, to me, I just can't wrap my head around it. To me, that is just utterly absurd. That's the contract thus far that has surprised me the most.
Chris Middleton, new 3-year deal, $102 million player option. He's going to stay with the Bucks. No real shock there, is it?
No, if he can stay healthy, he's certainly worth it. If he can't stay healthy like the last couple of years, then it's not going to look like a good contract. But ultimately, and Brook Lopez, who has yet to sign, is in the same spot. They need to bring back Chris Middleton. They need to bring back Brook Lopez, because Giannis Antetokounmpo could sign an extension in September. They're not going to sign that contract if Middleton and Brook Lopez both walk out. So we need to keep these guys, and I think that's the leverage that those guys have in talking to Milwaukee. Is if they leave, Milwaukee gets significantly worse, and if Milwaukee gets significantly worse, all of a sudden you have an unhappy Giannis.
I got to ask you, and we're talking with Justin Termini, host of NBA Today, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday on Sirius XM. I'm watching all these seats get filled in free agency. I'm watching Chris Paul go to the Warriors. I'm watching Kyrie stay put. I know the Lakers still need help. I'm looking at all these big names starting to disintegrate across the market and go to other places. Yeah, the Lakers bring back Rui Hachimura. They bring back, they go and get Gabe Vincent, which feels like, I don't know, Matt Schaub when he had like a good few games towards the early start of his career and then got a massive contract somewhere and went and was an average quarterback. I'm trying to figure out what the Lakers' plan here is in free agency to try and keep LeBron happy, but most of all, just make their team good enough so they can compete and win in the West.
Yeah, but I thought they were really good last year. And even though they got swept, I thought they pushed Denver maybe harder than everybody else because their margin of victory, you looked at those games, it was relatively close. They had the second best record after the trade deadline in the Western Conference. They had the best defense in the NBA after the trade deadline. So they're not that far away. I'm concerned. Gave him the contract, and you never know how these guys are going to perform. When it's like when guys used to, like a guy with Bruce Brown gets a huge contract. It's like, okay, great, but what does he look away? What does he look like away from Jokic? What does Aaron Gordon, who's a very good player, look like away from Jokic? Jokic is going to up the value. I think Eric Spoelstra probably does that as well with some of these guys. I thought Brad Stevens did it at the outset of his career, where you got like guys like Jordan Crawford who Boston's getting first-round picks for it, then he goes elsewhere, and the guy all of a sudden is playing overseas a couple of minutes later. Like, so what is Gabe Vincent going to do in L.A.? Does he take maybe a step back and not look as good because he's not being coached by Eric Spoelstra in the system? So, like, that's a little bit of a signing that could go good, but also could be bad. And then their main goal, like in this offseason, was re-signing Austin Reeves. That's one of the reasons why, hey, it's good that maybe some of that money is disappeared to Houston because he's a restricted free agent. And if one of these teams with cap space doesn't give him a big deal, maybe LA can get a little break on him. But Austin Reeves was their third best player last year, and they still need to sign him up before you would say it's a successful loss.
Will they match any offer on him?
I mean, that's the word out there. The most he can sign elsewhere is 4 years, $100 million, and they say that they will match that. And he's worth around that. I would swallow hard, I guess, if I'm giving him 4 years, $100 million, but I would still end up doing it.
Draymond Green winds up back with the Warriors. It just sounds like they're going to run it back with the same group, adding Chris Paul to the mix. What do you make of what the Warriors have done here?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one more year than I would have liked to have given Draymond, especially since Curry's deal runs 3 more years, and you're going to pay him until he's 37, $25 million. It's a lot. But, again, they weren't that far away. 2 years ago, they won a championship. This is going to be a much more intelligent team than the team that won a championship 2 years ago. And if you think about this past year, Andrew Wiggins missed 45 games. That's not going to happen again as a result of the family issue. Curry missed 20-plus games. You're bringing back Chris Paul here, who's an upgrade over Jordan Poole. Gary Payton, who last year came over in the trade, only played 7 games, really wasn't healthy. He comes back healthy. So I think this is a better version of the team that we saw last year. Maybe not as good as the one that won the title, but a team that, with a couple of breaks, maybe can make a run again next year. Probably, maybe a top team if they catch some breaks.
We know the Sixers aren't offering an extension to Tyrese Maxey. There had been some conversation that it could have something to do with a Damian Lillard move. What do you make of the moves we've seen so far, not just with the Sixers, but with all teams, in terms of trying to maybe position themselves to make a run at Lillard? Another team that's been quiet so far here in the opening hours of free agency is the Knicks. Could they get involved?
I don't think the Knicks should get involved with Damian Lillard because I really love Jalen Brunson, and I don't think they should go after Harden either. Now, Lillard's better than Jalen Brunson, but Harden's not better than Brunson, and I don't think they should mess with the Harden combination there next to Brunson. I think what the Knicks should be waiting for is Joel Embiid to get pissed off with what's going on in Philadelphia, and maybe next year request a trade. I think that's what the Knicks should be focused on. But that's the thing here is a lot of these teams, like Miami's been relatively quiet. They bring in Josh Richardson, a minimum deal. They bring back Kevin Love, but they might miss out on other things because they're like waiting for Damian Lillard to demand the trade apparently. So maybe make a run at James Harden. And if those two things don't happen, like if Lillard never demands a trade, where does that leave Miami? It kind of leaves them in a tough spot after losing games into the Max Strus.
By the way, the latest move too, Cam Reddish going to the Lakers as well on a 2-year deal. Take a flyer on him, see if he have his career there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's got the talent, more about his attitude, where he's, gone through a couple of spots. Atlanta, New York, he's complaining about minutes. He's not earning the minutes. He just wasn't a Tom Thibodeau type of guy where he's, Thibodeau's complaining about his work ethic. So you hope with some of these guys that they get the message that, hey, you're running out of chances here. You could be out of the league. So Yeah, I mean, I guess
Did
it's
we
the
lose
guy
JT?
that you say, maybe he learns from the work ethic.
We
of
may have
LeBron
lost
being
our
around him,
connection to our interview with
and can turn it around
Justin
a little.
Termini. All right. Appreciate
Justin
jumping
Termini
on the
does
show
a great
tonight.
job. NBA Today, 4 to
Getting
7
some thoughts
p.m.
with him
Eastern,
on,
Monday through Friday.
all the trade
Sirius
deadline
XM,
news. And again,
NBA
if you're just
Radio.
jumping in,
Catch them there with
Tyrese
Eddie
Halliburton
Johnson.
and the
Always good
Pacers,
to talk to you, my friend. Have a great weekend. We'll be following all the moves.
$260 million.
All right, Peter,
By far the
appreciate
biggest
that.
move of this free agency period. And again, it's just at the end of the day, this stuff is just numbers. It's goofy money because we could probably sit here and name a whole bunch of guys that are better than Tyrese Halliburton, but he is now the face of that Pacers organization for better or for worse. They've got to try and build a championship team around him. We'll see how you do that. Desmond Bane also, as we reported at the top of this segment, Desmond Bane getting 5 years, $207 million. So that's better than $40 million a year for him. On the other side, the NFL, Jason Cole talks gambling controversy next. Did I want what? I'm sorry. Yeah, I wanted the ESPN stuff. Definitely. Thank you for being a part of it. This Friday edition of the show.
I forgot I put.
Thank you for being a part of it. This Friday edition of the show. Wow. Next hour. Mariners imploding. Thank you for being a part of it. This Friday edition of the show. Next hour. Well, there is no next hour, depending on when you're listening, so there's no point in even mentioning it. I'm telling you, these meds are doing a number on me. I'm like 5 steps behind where I normally would be, which is already a few steps behind in the mental game right now. Trying to gut it out. Jason Cole is going to be our guest, NFL Insider Outkick.com. He does a great job over there. Also the author of this beautiful new book that you should get called Shut Up, Your Kid Is Not That Great. My goal is to help him sell as many books as possible so he can put his kids through college. No, I don't have to worry about putting your kids through college, do I, Jason?
No, you don't. That's done.
Yeah, that's already over.
Yeah, that's over.
Shut up, your kid. Shut up, your kid is not that great. Let's see, page 94. Shut up, your kid's not the next NASCAR superstar. Just because your kid knows how to ride a quad and is great with go-karts doesn't mean they're going to be able to ride around in circles for 4 hours while holding in their urine. And eventually you're going.
I forgot. I put that.
And eventually you're going to want them to learn how to turn right.
Yeah, that's true. That's all absolutely true.
The name of the book is Shut Up, Your Kid Is Not That Great. Joined by Jason Cole on the show. So I've asked this question of a couple different people this week, and I'm asking the same one of you just because I'm just curious. Different people, different perspectives, different eras in terms of people who have covered the league. I've asked a former player, I've asked a sports betting person, and now I'm asking you. Does the NFL just have a larger problem with its athletes betting both on their sport and other sports and just a gambling culture in general? Or is it that the NFL is so heavily policing this that's why we are where we are now in this conversation with all these suspensions taking place?
Yeah, they're more heavily policing it, and it's paid attention to far more than other sports because the integrity of football would be in question. And there's nothing. And I once had a conversation with Brian, the guy, the VP of the league, who's in charge of media.
Brian McCarthy?
No, not Brian McCarthy. He's up higher than Brian McCarthy. I'll think of the name.
Okay.
Anyways, and he just flatly said the biggest thing that scares them is a gambling scandal. So there is there is nothing that scares them more than the potential for something to go wrong in this area. So they are watching it like hawks and trying to figure it out. But largely they're figuring it out as they go. To know exactly what's wrong, exactly what's right. But the one thing that they clearly do not want their players doing ever betting on NFL games because of the potential for insider information. You call a friend from another team to find out what's going on. That information gets around. It's all levels of craziness that they are just incredibly frightening.
Well, given the kinds of suspensions that we're seeing, some for guys gambling on NFL campuses and NFL facilities, even on other sports, but also the stuff is interesting as is this NFL player gonna get over X number of yards, running back, prop bets, things like that, like we're seeing in the Colts situation. When you're seeing those sorts of things, does it lead you to believe that the league has to up the penalties? I mean, look, I don't think we'll ever see this issue in Major League Baseball because the example was made of Pete Rose. And even though that's a zillion years ago and there's guys playing today who probably even to some degree have very little clue who Pete Rose is and understand his importance to the game because it's so far removed, the one thing that's been a constant from Pete Rose being suspended for life by A. Bartlett Giamatti to where we are now is his attempts to get back into the the game always being rebuffed. So he still always remained part of the headline. The example is there. Does the NFL need something like that? Do they need to put a policy in place that says, you bet on anything NFL related, you're done. We're putting you on you're done forever. That's it.
Well, you're done for a year. They already did that with Calvin Ridley. Right?
Yeah, but 1 year is obviously not getting through, is it?
Well, these suspensions, and by the way, the person I was talking about is Brian Rowlap, who's their chief media and business officer. He's probably third in line in the NFL behind Roger and Jeff Patch. So that's what he was talking about. Anyways, to answer your question, they don't know how to police the issue of legalized betting of other sports with people who are in a union and not technically management, right? They don't police those. They don't police the players the same way that they police, say, a team president or an equipment manager or an assistant coach, right? They don't. Those people literally work for a team and therefore the league, etc. And there have been, guys who lost their jobs before. I think, famously there was a member of the Chicago Bears PR staff who was fired because he was heavily involved in gambling. Now, I think he was actually gambling on NFL games. But they can police staff personnel. They can't police NFL players the same way, other than to say you cannot gamble on football itself, on the NFL, I should say, itself. So they have drawn that line, and they're going to have to continue to draw that line. And yes, probably make some examples out of people along the way, a la Pete Rose. I mean, nobody remembers Paul Hornung, or Alex Karras, missing games, but it will be something along those lines.
Talking with Jason Cole, NFL Insider, Outkick.com. He's also a Hall of Fame selector, joining us here on the Cash In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. And I'll even say this, and I talked about it a little bit last night. There's an issue even with them gambling on other sports because as well as I do, all these guys are friends. They all, say agents and things like that. I mean, NFL players know NBA players know baseball. I mean, all these guys are sometimes in these different circles. Yeah. I mean, isn't that an issue from a gambling integrity standpoint? If you get an NFL player passing on information to a Major League Baseball player who's gambling on an NFL game, doesn't it just become all intertwined in this way where integrity and betting in general is going to be a problem?
The biggest problem that they worry about is people giving away information to professional gamblers, right? So Billy Walters, being the most famous, publicly known professional gambler, but there are tons of others, right? Known. But Billy Walters, in his heyday, was the greatest gambler of all time, right? He invented new systems and all sorts of ideas. But the biggest thing that Billy Walters did is he had information. And what the NFL fears is people giving away information, even though I'm 1,000% convinced that if you did enough work on enough personnel, you're going to find some low-level flunky, assistant trainer, assistant coach, equipment guy who's trying to give information, who's getting bribed for information. Like, who's practicing this week, who's not practicing this. I've been on private betting sites, that are invitation-only sites where you have to be approved. And the amount of information I see flowing on those kinds of sites that you wouldn't see out in the general public is pretty staggering.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's much more detailed and intimate information than you will find in the general public.
Okay, you got to text me that info. I've got 45 seconds. Is Dalvin Cook signing with Miami or what?
At some point, that I would say they're the leading contender. I mean, look, it's just a game of cat and mouse right now. Veteran players don't have any reason to sign now. they wait until a week before camp, or even into camp, because I think there's a lot of coaches who they find out, are you in shape or not in shape? Or they go and have somebody check you out. Are you ready? Okay. If you're ready, I don't need you for the first 2 or 3 weeks of camp. Okay. I need you to get ready in the last month.
Mm. Well, seriously, have a great night. I'll talk to you next week. Bye. Yeah, I'm going to try. All right, be well. I'll talk to you next week. All right, that does it for us on the video side as well. Thank you to everybody who tuned in all week. I apologize. I was certainly not my best because I was definitely under the weather. Hopefully we'll be done with these meds this weekend and get back at it next week. Everybody have a safe weekend. It's 4th of July. Careful on the roads. Don't drink and drive. Be careful with fireworks. I shouldn't even have to say that, but I guess I do. There's lots of accidents every year that occur with fireworks. Please be very safe in whatever you're doing. Leave it to the professionals. Just go and watch. And don't forget about your dogs. They don't like fireworks. So cover their ears or do something, but make sure your dogs are okay during fireworks. I know I have to do it with mine. Have a great night, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back next Wednesday. 4 days off. Till then, I'm Jason Page. Bye.